Current Rising is the world's first opera created specifically for hyperreality.
Well, hyperreality is virtual reality plus. So we take the standard virtual reality headset, well obviously we use the latest and greatest of those, and you have a backpack computer which gives you sort of the best possible visual quality that you can get at this point in time. And then we add to that. So firstly you have multi-users, you have in this case a group of 4 people, and you also have a physical space that's dedicated to the experience. So what it means is that as you move around in virtual reality, you're physically moving around in real space.
So we're opening Current Rising in the Royal Opera House on the Limbury stage. So the audience will enter the theatre, go onto the stage and start their experience there.
The idea that you take the audience on an actual journey, a physical journey as well as a metaphorical journey. And so that was a very good starting point for us.
Essentially, it's a 50-minute opera which has been newly composed over lockdown, and a group of creatives have come together to create an experience around that, a sort of physical journey and emotional journey through 50 minutes of composition.
What has surprised me is really quite how immersive it is and how much it takes you into another world, which is very interesting from a musical perspective, and it gave me a lot of opportunities in the way that I was composing the score.
I took a great journey into VR. I didn't know anything about it before, and as soon as I put the headset on, I wanted to go back inside. It's really, really fun. It's really exciting.
Working in virtual reality has thrown up so many wonderful offerings and gifts. You're able to sort of construct those environments very quickly and sort of test them and explore those ideas. It was really refreshing to sort of have a few passes at options early on. We present the same world for you, but obviously once we're in VR, our ability to shift and change the world gives us the opportunity to create a totally unique scene change out of this, something you could never do on stage.
I think there really are no boundaries. As an art form, it's something that can explore myriad technologies and many different ways of presentation.
It's completely unlike anything I've ever felt or heard. I mean, it's poetic, it's meditative, it's totally all-consuming and beautiful. I am literally lost for words.
Hello and welcome to our In Conversation about Current Rising, the hyperreality opera that the Royal Opera House co-created with Figment as part of Audiences of the Future. I hope the film gave you a little bit of an insight of what it might look and feel like. You're one of the first people to see it. The pandemic prevented the premiere we were going to have in November. The show will be on, we've just announced it, in May later this year. We're really excited to talk with you about it. So I'll bring in Simon, the CEO of Figment, very shortly. We'll have a conversation about some of the things that we thought were important. We're also really excited to hear what you think and the questions that arise from having seen the video and sort of encountering this piece of work. When we started this process, one of the things that we really wanted to do was bring together the theatricality of opera, the sort of immersiveness that comes with that art form that already layers music, big emotion, these sort of crazy, hyper-stylized worlds with what was possible with hyperreality. When I first saw the technology, it felt incredibly operatic immediately, and we felt these two art forms, the art form of creating hyperreality and opera, would merge into something really exciting. One of the things we really wanted to do was create something that was site specific, so something you wanted to go to, but also as a shared experience. So something that comes to life with the audience in it. So you go in as with a group of 4 people, you experience it together, and you're in the world together. So every performance is sort of completed by the audience, so to speak. I think the thing that we're really excited about is this feels like a new stage, a new kind of stage to make performative work on, to make art in, and in a way that can tour, can sort of go across the world, can live on stages, but also could live in foyers and in public space. When we were first thinking about putting Current Rising on, we were looking at doing it in an abandoned shop, which we would have done were it not for the pandemic. So I think the thing that I'm really excited about is that these technologies really open up a new way of making, which opens up new kinds of processes, but also a new way of encountering audiences in different places and different spaces, really opening up art in a new way. I'll bring in the wonderful Simon Reveley from Figment, and he will talk a little bit about what was interesting for them about this project. Simon.
Sure. Well, I think firstly, I'd just say that it's been very, very frustrating to have this lovely set and all of the technology and the content finished, raring to go, but sat in the dark with the lights off at the Opera House at the moment. Very excited to see the lights come on and us be able to open the doors to the public in May. Obviously, the pandemic has changed things for everybody, but for us, the timing was very interesting, and I can't remember how many times we rescheduled. But I'm very excited to see people's reactions to this. I think it's certainly nothing like anything I've seen before. When we embarked on the project, obviously, Annette, you and I had lots of conversations about where it might lead. The core sort of technology focus was to push the envelope in terms of how artists and producers from other forms of performance and art and production could work with this new medium of hyperreality. And I think it might be worth just saying, I'm sure there's lots of people who are watching this who know what we mean by hyperreality, but it's basically a shorthand which has at the heart of it virtual reality. So our group of 4 will be wearing high-end backpacks, HP ZVR backpacks, with HP Reverb headsets, so high-end VR headsets. But that's just the beginning. At Figment, we created a platform which allows us to put groups together in the same space. They can see each other, they can talk to each other during an experience, and that's the platform that we built Current Rising on. So when you go into that experience, you can have a shared social experience. You can see each other, you can wave to each other, you move around a dedicated space together, and you experience that space with effects such as wind and vibration, and we can introduce tactile elements as well to the equation. So hyperreality for us means all of those things. It means freedom of movement, free roaming VR, but social VR with 4D effects elements as well. And I think at the beginning we knew we were going to do all of that stuff, but what I certainly didn't know, and what was really interesting to us at Figment, was interfacing with a team of people who are used to putting on enormous and really interesting and innovative opera experiences on stages such as the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden, and to take that traditional skill set of production and dovetail it into our world of technology, media, content production. That's what's been most interesting, because for us, part of the job was creating a tool set that would enable us to collaborate together with this diverse group of artists. And the end result is, like nothing I could have predicted at the beginning. It's very much an art-based experience, which I'm really excited for people to see.
Thanks. I think, so obviously this was created as part of Audiences of the Future, which is a much bigger push within the UK. Some people might have seen the Dream conversation that just happened, which also came out of the same funding push to really open up new kinds of experiences for audiences, to really think about how we expand, how we both create and present art. I think for both Simon and I, it's been such an exciting journey to feel like we're creating something that is very new and very unique, but really leans heavily on the traditions that we both come from. It is incredibly operatic. We worked with a opera team to create it, the standard composer, designer, director, librettist, but then really invited them into the world of hyperreality, taking them on a journey to really learn about the medium and then apply their skill set to it. And vice versa, I think Simon's team really brought all their expertise about how you create three-dimensional worlds, their aesthetic, their practice. And I think the thing that I found really exciting is that during the process, those two processes started to merge. And I think it's important to say that within this process, one of the things that really comes to the fore is how do you make across these disciplines? We're doing a research report with Royal Holloway on this, so that might be of interest for people in the future. We probably come to fruition around about summer, where we will look at the audience response, but also really at the business case. How do you develop this work? How does it go into the world? What does distribution look like? What do commercial models look like? So I'll be really happy to share those findings with anyone who's interested.
I think that's it's a very interesting timing for that piece of business study as well, because obviously we're coming out of a pandemic. A lot of people in location-based VR being a little unsure of where the business model lies. There is actually quite a lot of confidence, I think, which I've been slightly pleasantly surprised by, that a lot of people with established location-based VR experiences, not necessarily in the arts sector, but just across the board, they seem to be quite buoyant and quite optimistic about audiences coming back post-pandemic. So some of this study that we're doing into the business case, I think, will be running in a very timely fashion, trying to take on board people's reactions post-pandemic to the idea of going to a location and using shared VR equipment. I think that's going to be really interesting to see the results of some of those research reports. And particularly for those of us who want to build new audiences and build new experiences within this sector. Obviously, we can't always rely on funding. You know, we were very lucky to have Innovate UK backing for this project, but we can't always rely on that. So we need to know that we're establishing business models here that can survive into the future. And I think that's one of the big outcomes from this project will be to be able to look at that and hopefully execute it. Because I know Annette, we want to go out there and take this to the world, right? If we can tour it and take it all around the world, that would be fantastic. But we need to make sure the business model is in place to do that properly.
Yes, and I think obviously that there is this show, but also part of the project very much was to develop tools, you know, Figment developed tools so that it becomes easier for non-technical artists, like, for example, our opera director and designer, to create in this. So I think for us, it'd be very exciting if this project becomes a blueprint for other cultural organizations to think about what they would make in this. It's almost that we found a form that we think is really exciting, that's exciting to an audience that could have business models underpinning it. And the more of it there are out there, the more easy distribution and offerings to audiences become. So we're really excited to hear from people who might want to make something in this method and in this way and sort of continue the journey onwards. We have a question from Andrew Sterling, asked, is the audience of the future very much a hybrid one, in person and online simultaneously? Do you have thoughts on that, Simon?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, and it's something we are looking at, having location-based experiences that can be shared across locations, and obviously that could include at home. But I do think that from a world of opera and theatre, and for us, you know, our backgrounds in the theme park industry, for us, there are things we can do when we can control and manipulate the environment that can take things to another level. So most of the time, it will be about coming to a location to do those kind of higher end experiences, I think.
Yeah, and I think I'm excited to see sort of the scope of work that is emerging. We've just seen Dream by the RSC and Punchdrunk and that team, which really leaned into what can you bring into people's homes. But I think there's also a need to come together in spaces, to have experiences together that feel embodied, that feel like you're part of it. And I think those things will coexist. I think they can be different. Sometimes they can overlap. But I think that the technology as it's emerging, the immersive technology as it's emerging, we can look forward to really pushing what art can do, what technology can do, and offer experiences both at home, but also in the cultural sphere. That's it from us. Thank you so much. Please feel free to be in touch with us via all the South by Southwest platforms if you have any more questions. And have a beautiful South by Southwest. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.